Hi, this is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today is the Global Stampin' Video Hop, so be sure to hop on around after we finish today's video. So I'm going to be sharing these cute Festive postcard and little treat box with you today. So let's get started. For this card, we're going to be using the Festive Post stamp set that is from the August through December mini catalog. Of course, you can see that in my store if you don't have a catalog on hand. We're going to start with a piece of Whisper White and Pool Party ink, and I've got some that I have squeezed here on the lid and a water painter. Let me just squeeze it to get some water moving down through the brush and give this a swirl around. And then we're just going to do a quick little addition of some blue here. Got my ink a little more watery. That'll do to give us some background color, and then we're going to set this aside and let it dry. Next, we're going to use this diagonal stripe stamp from Festive Post. I've got a piece of scrap paper here and a piece of Whisper White that is 1 1/8 wide by 5 1/4 long, and my real red ink pad, and just going to set my stamp on the ink pad. Now I am going to move this up and zoom in a little bit so that I can get my head in without being in your camera frame, so that we can match up the stripe. So let's start up here at the top. And then we're going to turn this and see if that matches up the stripe. Pretty close. And then we're going to turn this and see about matching that stripe again. And then just a little bit off the bottom here. Let's move that up. Now you'll be able to see this better when you do it because you won't have the big light shining down. So let's bring this back out so that we'll be able to see the work surface here, and put my real red away and move on to our next piece. So I've got a piece of scrap paper here and this pretty deer from Festive Post, and we're going to use the Cinnamon Cider ink pad. And let's just set that deer on, make sure he's inked, and put him down here. Give him a press and a hold. It does take ink just a second to transfer. Oop, I've gotten a little messy, so we're going to do him again, and I am looking at the image and it looks like I need to stamp off just a little bit. This ink pad is still very juicy, and I forgot to stamp off, so we'll see whether this one is any better. It does look nicer. And let's take our rectangular postage stamp punch. Now this punch is in the annual catalog. Okay, and set these out of the way. And now we'll go ahead and stamp our sentiment. Let's move this out of the way and this out of the way. We're going to use the Merry Christmas from Festive Post. And make sure that I've got this right side up. And we're going to line the paper up against the grid lines here. And Christmas is the word that is straight. Merry has movement, so when you're looking down, get Christmas on there straight. Let's close up the real red so I don't dip my fingers in. And then we're going to use my paper snips to cut a little banner into our sentiment here. There we go. Okay, one last little bit of stamping before we start assembling. We're going to bring our base piece back in. So we're going to use this little star cluster stamp from Festive Post and tap on some Versamark. And let's kind of work with the shape of our watercolored background here. And you're just going to put a random bunch of these around, as you can't see at this point where your deer is going to be. So let's take a piece of scrap paper and sprinkle on some gold embossing powder. Okay. And then I'm going to take this aside and use my heat tool to set it, and we will begin to assemble the card. Okay, so we have our embossing done on this layer, and now it's time to put the card together. So I have a thick Whisper White base, and let me grab dimensionals, and we're going to add those back of our watercolor layer here. And do be sure to give this piece enough dimensionals, as you do generally get a little bit of warping with a watercolor layer, and so the dimensionals will not only hold this piece, give it some dimensional on your card. The dimensionals will also work to pull the warped edge flat. So I'm just going to add another one up here. My warping is along this side. Now, often with a watercolor layer, I choose to adhere it completely flat to the card. But as this card is mostly a clean and simple style, the little raised bit will give this a little more dressed up look. I've got our piece here that we stamped with the diagonal, and then a piece of just jade, and I did take this off camera and restamp, so you can see just how easy that is to line up when you don't have the camera lights in your view. Okay, just trying to make sure that my Just Jade strip is straight, and I need to push this in just a a smidge. Don't want much of it out. And as I adjust, it seems like the top is popping out if I'm pushing the bottom in. Okay, and then we're just going to use the top of the strip to trim the little excess that I was beyond the edge up here. Sorry, I'm still looking to see and love the wiggle room from the multi-purpose glue. I'm able to adjust my strip here on the back. Okay, now that looks pretty even. We're going to add that right along our edge here, and I'm going to adhere that directly to our watercolor layer. And I've got just a little bit of a white edge from the stamping, so I'm letting that hide itself with the edge of the watercolor layer. If you have the same thing, you won't even notice it. And then let's put dimensionals on the back of our deer. And before we put the deer down, I want some of this gold trim from the Forever Greenery combo pack. And I'm just going to do a couple loops of that. Let's cut it, and it frays in a really lovely way, so I want to fray those ends a bit more. There we go. It's all about pulling the right one of the threads. They're half a dozen or so. If you've ever done any embroidery, you'll know that you pull your threads apart. There we go. And now I want to wind this back up around my fingers, but we'll get this nice little lighter looking loops. Okay, we're going to put this down, and then I'm going to trim up some of this that's far off the edge. I like this little bit, but it doesn't need to wrap halfway around my circle. There we go. Let's take that out of the way. And we'll put our deer down in this little circle here. And then we need our sentiment. Let me grab my mini dimensionals for our sentiment. Okay, and let's put that other dimensional on here. And whoops, I've already pulled the backing off of that one. And we're just going to put our sentiment right up here. And there's our quick and easy Festive Post card. So let's set this aside, and we'll do a little treat packaging to go with. For our treat packaging, we're going to start with the little treat box dies that are in the August through December mini catalog. And I've got my piece of scrap paper again, and my box that's already been die cut. And I want to fold these little tabs down, and I've got my diagonal stamp and the real red ink, and we're just going to set that in the ink, and we're going to do just a little partial stamp here, and ink that again, and do the same little partial stamp here. We're just giving it a little background. Okay, let's close up my real red for a moment and set this aside. And I've got a piece of scrap left from die cutting my box, and the cinnamon cider ink, and my deer. And we're just going to put that here in one of the scrap ends. It's the perfect size. And close up my cinnamon cider ink and grab my rectangular postage stamp punch, and let's just cut that. Okay, and set these aside and pull this back in, and let's burnish the rest of these score lines now. Take your bone folder and make sure that they're well creased. The die does give the score line, and then you just need to come across it with your bone folder. And then we're also going to bring these side pieces in and burnish along that score line as well. So let's grab our adhesive. I've got my Stampin' Seal Plus, and we're just going to add some adhesive on all 4 of these pieces before we start folding up. Okay, and then this is super simple. These tabs tuck into the slots when I'm not being fiddly. There we go. And then hold that and make sure that your sides are squared before you give it a press. And same thing over on this side. Stick it in, and then now if you choose to, you can skip the adhesive step and just tie the top with a ribbon. That depends on what the look is that you're going for. Now I have some of this frayed gold from the Forever Greenery combo pack that we're going to use. So let me just kind of pick this up and put it together, because as you saw when I pulled it apart, I just tossed this aside. So I'm going to neaten it up just a little bit. You may have set yours aside more carefully after fraying than I did, and that's a great thing, but as you see, it only takes a moment to neaten it up. And I'm going to grab a mini glue dot and put that right here on the end. Let's tighten that up a little bit. We've got a little too much hanging out this time. It's a smaller container, so compared to the card, so we don't need all of that little frayed bit hanging out. Oop, this just wants to stick to my finger, and I'm going to put a glue dot over on this side. So let me grab my take your pick tool, and we're going to pull that up where I want it, and then my fingers are being very fumbly today. There we go. All right, let's find my dimensionals over here and put a couple of dimensionals on the back of our deer. Okay, let's pull these out of the way. And I'm going to put a little bit of ribbon in the top there. I've got this real red sheer ribbon from the mini catalog. We're just going to pull that through and then give this a little bit of a knot, like if you've ever tied a tie. So I'm coming around and then under and back up through, and then let's slide this down, neaten this up just a little bit. Okay, and grab my scissors and just give each of these a little angle cut, and we're off to the races. So there's a little cute treat packaging or gift package, depending, you know, put a piece of jewelry in there, would fit perfectly, or some sweets, and that's it. Thanks for stopping in today. Be sure to click the link, and for the next video in today's Global Stampin' Video Hop, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your card making stamping friends, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and click the bell if you'd like to be notified the next time I upload a video, and of course have a great day. Bye.